A very good morning to you. Welcome to the program. Thank you indeed for your patience and thank you for accommodating us this early in the morning. Professor Adrian Puren from, of course, the Department of, or rather, you are the Executive Director of the National Institute for Communicable Diseases. We are going to be talking about monkeypox. Is it something to be concerned about? A very good morning to you. Welcome.
Good morning, Judy. Thanks very much for the opportunity. So the term that we're now using, because this is the recommendation from WHO, is to talk about Mpox. This is really to reduce the concerns, real and so on, about stigma specifically. So just a little bit of background to this virus. It's still called the monkeypox virus, but it was originally noted in about 1957 in Denmark in monkeys, and that's where the term has come about. The first human cases were in about 1970 odd or thereabouts. This virus is in circulation and endemic in certain parts of Africa, in particular the Central and Western Africa, where it continues to be in circulation, so it is endemic. But what we're currently seeing, and this is your referral to the 13 cases that we have seen with 2 fatalities, is really an ongoing multi-country outbreak that started in 2022. For the first time outside of the endemic countries, we saw large-scale transmission in particular settings of this particular virus in 2022, right up to today. So although in other areas of the world, there certainly has been a large surge in cases, these have certainly declined, but there's still reports about 400 to 500 cases per month of Mpox. In South Africa, we did have about 5 cases in 2022, and in 2023, we've not had any cases. But currently, over the last few months, we've certainly seen 13 severe cases of Mpox and 2 fatalities that we have experienced so far. So certainly it is not does not have a high rate of transmission from person to person. The so-called R, or reproductive number, is just above 1, compared to COVID, where that was very different. So although worldwide we've certainly seen about 95,000 cases, it is not as transmissible a virus, but we should still be concerned, because I think what we've seen in South Africa is certainly 13 cases, severe cases, and that means that there's larger numbers of individuals that are affected, but there may be mild cases. And as you know, many of these viral diseases or infections can have a spectrum from just presenting with a rash or mild symptoms right up to severe and hospitalized cases. And the severity is really as a result of individuals who are immunocompromised, such as those individuals who have HIV infections and may or may not be on treatment, or have further immunocompromised in terms of low CD4 counts, that then exacerbates the infections and outcomes.
So, Professor, quite a number of questions to put to you. Let's look at the issue around COVID. If you had been one of the unfortunate people to have contracted COVID whilst it was doing its rounds during the lockdown, but you have recovered, we know that we also had many deaths, not only in South Africa, but globally. Does that put you at greater risk? What exactly then is monkeypox? And then the whole big issue around transmission. How is it transmitted? And what do we do to protect ourselves? Are there vaccines? Will there be vaccines available in the near future? And is it advisable, knowing that there is the issue of the anti-vaxxers who are saying that, no, don't go that route at all, because, you're putting your life on the line as far as vaccines are concerned. So a whole host of questions. I'll let you respond.
All right, I'll try and cover if I recall. So Mpox, as I said, is a virus. It spreads from person to person, but it requires really close physical contact. So it's face-to-face contact through kissing. There could be aerosols that can certainly spread this particular virus from person to person. But the main routes of in this particular multi-country outbreak of Mpox is really a consequence of close contact, skin-to-skin contact. And that's really critical for the transmission of this particular virus. So skin-to-skin contact could be within family situations or exposure to fomites. But the main routes now are really through specific social and sexual networks where there is close skin-to-skin contact during sexual contact. So the presentation could be, following an incubation, could be the presence of a virus. And as I said, this virus can vary from individual to individual, but those that are really severely infected will have quite a large number of vesicles that this, again, through face-to-face contact, could be in the oral region. But if you get close sexual contact, so in the perianal area, for example, can be rashes, but there could be body rashes, rashes on hands, and so forth in very severe cases. So our concern is that although for the general population, the risk is low, but however, within these particular settings where the virus has gained access, if you like, where there are social networks where there's a high risk of exposure, that those are the individuals that we really are concerned about. We're concerned about the fact that there's stigmatization in this, real and true stigmatization, as well as the fact that if you have multiple partners, for example, the risks of spreading this virus from one person to the other can certainly increase. And of course, within these particular settings are individuals who are HIV infected specifically, who have a great risk, especially if they are immunocompromised, have low CD4 counts, are not on treatment, don't even know their status, that in fact this virus can certainly spread. So what we would like to encourage, again, is our healthcare workers to be aware of how this disease can present, because again, even though the symptoms can look like other conditions, such as having a fever, what we call lymph nodes or lymph glands not just feeling well, but the rash is, I think, what we call pathognomonic for this particular viral infection. So, but it can be confused with other viral and bacterial infections. So it's really important that clinicians and the broader communities be aware of how this particular disease can present, so that they can go to the healthcare facilities and be tested not only for Mpox, but also a range, just to exclude in terms of a differential diagnosis. So in the
What
main,
about, sorry, continue, please.
Yeah. So if I can just conclude, so in the main, as I said, the symptoms can be mild and can be treated symptomatically at home. However, in severe cases, and those are hospitalized cases, where again the WHO provides specific criteria, there is access now in South Africa at hospitals to an antiviral drug called tecovirimet, and that certainly has proven to be very useful. There are vaccines available, and these vaccines are really to prevent infection. And again, I think it will be in targeted groups that this particular vaccine will become available in order, because again, it's expensive, it will be most likely donated, and so we will rather target specific risk groups where this is appropriate. Now, remember, the virus, I've spoken about the more obvious way in which this virus is spreading in our communities or worldwide, but of course, in situations where there's fomite spread, again, this could be through contact on surfaces such as bedding, utensils, and so forth. So there is fomite transmission as well. So I hope that gives you a broad picture of how Mpox
Okay, we need to go for an ad break. When we come back, I want to understand, they talk about Mpox being a viral zoonotic disease. So where does it come from? How has it been transmitted, possibly from animals to human beings, if I'm understanding correctly? And then we're going to be looking at symptoms for people to then, be on the lookout if, they possibly are, have been infected, and the treatment options, obviously, if it's not very, very serious. So I'm talking with Professor Adrian Puren. We are talking about Mpox. Please stay with us. We're going for an ad break, and when we come back, we're going to be looking at what exactly is this virus, how is it, he has covered how it's transmitted, but when they talk about it being a zoonotic disease, what does that exactly mean? And then we're going to be looking at symptoms. So do stay with us.
Contact Lenasia Livestock and Poultry for all your sadaqah, akika and kurbani requirements. We offer clean, hygienic abattoir style and refrigeration facilities. Sheep, goat and cows are available at competitive market-related prices, direct to the public. We slaughter, slice and distribute on your behalf. But that's not all. Introducing Meat Masters Halal Butchery, our sister company situated on our farm in Lenasia. Unbeatable prices on lamb, beef and chicken. Lenasia Livestock and Poultry. Livestock is our business. We are Sanha approved. Telephone 011 857 1774. Call now.
After the recent attacks on Gaza, many families have been displaced with their homes left destroyed. Through your donations, our teams are on the ground in Gaza, providing support and delivering necessary aid to families affected. The people of Gaza need your help. Give hope. Donate today to Penny Appeal South Africa. www.pennyappeal.org.za 031 1100 573.
We are here on the ground with Penny Appeal organizations in Gaza.
Valley's Motor Spares. We supply motor spares and accessories for all makes and models of motor cars, LDVs, bakkies, trucks, and earth-moving equipment. We deliver on time, every time. Please contact us via WhatsApp on 014-592-0925 or call 014-592-0925 or visit 28 Zenderling Street, Rustenburg. Remember the name, Valley's Motor Spares.
You know, it's a wonder how kids get anything done these days. With all the distractions, when do they even get time to study? As a mother, all I can really do is make sure they have all they need to perform at their best. That's why I choose to include Sunfoil, triple refined pure sunflower oil with every meal I make. Naturally cholesterol-free and approved by the Heart and Stroke Foundation as part of a balanced eating plan. So whether I'm cooking, frying or baking, I know every dish will be a wholesome one. Sunfoil, now we're cooking.
Discover the Africa of your dreams and surround yourself with her spectacular beauty. Relax beneath her serene sunsets and explore wildlife at its natural best. It's where the pride of Africa comes together. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve. Get to know the Big Five or cruise on an elephant safari game drive. Interact with lion and tiger cubs and enjoy world-class halal cuisine while we pamper you during your 5-star stay. Indulge in the true African experience. For reservations, call now on 042-203-1400 or visit kwantu.co.za. The Kwantu Private Game Reserve, the place of gathering.
Connect and stay ahead with Salam Media. This is Salam Media, coming to you live from South Africa.
Executive Director of the National Institute for Communicable Diseases, Professor Adrian Puren, is our guest. He's here to talk about Mpox. We've given him a couple of questions before the ad break to respond to. So welcome back to you, Professor.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Yes, so the question is around what we call zoonotic transmission of this particular virus. So yes, so as I said, in West Africa and Central Africa, this virus has been in circulation, continues to be in circulation in communities. Compared to the global outbreak, in fact, you'll still see the numbers just continuing in circulation in those countries. So we don't really know the actual rodent source. We think it's a rodent source of this particular virus that has obviously been transmitted to other animals, such as monkeys, for example. So when, for example, when there's hunting of these particular animals, there's probably exposure through blood, for example, and abrasions on the skin. And so it's thought that is the initial exposure under those circumstances from the animal to the human. And then in the household, as I said, there can be transmission, again, thermite transmission, as we call it, through exposure to surfaces, bedding, clothing, and other surfaces. And then person-to-person contact, again, as I said, the face-to-face contact, close contact. There's no, in those particular settings, it's not thought to be sexual contact necessarily. But this has certainly changed now, certainly in the DRC, there are certainly reports that this particular virus has now obviously been noted in context of, for example, sex work as well. So in the endemic scenarios, as far as we're aware, it's not fully concluded how all the modes of transmission are, but it's thought that that is the types of route from animal to human within households and then into the community. But there is now evidence, at least in the DRC as well, that there is also within particular social and sexual networks of the transmission of this particular virus.
So let's go to one of the questions that I put to you before the ad break, which you haven't responded to, and that's regarding the issue of people who were, diagnosed and treated for COVID. Are they more or less at risk, or has that really got the COVID issue got nothing to do with Mpox, number one? And then let's also look at the issue around the symptoms. And finally, you talk about it being when it's transmitted in the home. As we did in the time of COVID, we sanitized the whole house and everything, utensils, everything, clothing, and we were quite astute with the sanitization regime. Would it be necessary for us to go that route again if one of our loved ones presents with Mpox?
Yeah, certainly. So let's deal, I think, with the first question around COVID-19. So my sense would be that only those individuals who are HIV positive, who are not on treatment and are immunocompromised, who've had COVID previously, as we know, that was a high risk. But COVID in and of itself currently is not seen as an additional risk to individuals with regard to Mpox. It's more likely in the settings of other sexually transmitted infections, for example, that those pose a risk, and in particular HIV infections. So I hope that helps you to understand.
Absolutely.
So with regard to treatments, again, and presentations. So as I said, the symptoms can vary. Most cases will be mild. In other words, people will present with a fever, for example, not feeling well. As I said, the lymph node, these are glands in the neck area or just under the jawline that can present. And then lower back ache, for example, are the sort of characteristic type of symptoms. But as you can imagine, those symptoms are common to various other diseases and will resolve. And again, the skin manifestations, and that's the key here, is the skin manifestations. You can have a single, what we call a vesicle, that can change over time, and you could just have one of those vesicles, or you can have multiple. And in particular, if there's been face-to-face contact, so around the mouth and within the mouth itself. And then, as I said, it can spread on the body, the hands, and the perianal lever if there's been close contact during sexual contact. But again, these could resolve over time, and it will take more or less 3 or so weeks. And that's when you don't become transmissible. In other words, transmission will occur while you have an active skin manifestation of this particular virus. And it's thought that only when the skin has healed does transmission stop. Now, again, if you're well, basically, not having experienced much pain or symptoms, for example, and the skin lesions are not becoming super infected, then treatments at home may well be advisable, for example, if you're well. So again, it's a matter of ensuring that the skin lesions are clean, that they're not irritating, and that you're not scratching and infecting it. So that needs to be managed. And again, the fever and so forth can certainly be managed with over-the-counter remedies. I think my concern is that when individuals have these severe skin lesions and they're not well, that they really then should need to seek assistance. I want to come back to the point you raised very well with regard to how we manage COVID-19 in the home. So again, if an individual does have the disease and it's confirmed, then I would recommend the sort of steps that you have recommended. In other words, perhaps separating out into specific environments that do not have any mixing, the bedding, the clothing, and so forth must be treated separately as well as the utensils. So I'd certainly recommend that. But I want to emphasize again that this disease, with regard to the general population, the risk is low. It's in particular settings, social and sexual networks, where the risks are much greater. And therefore, in terms of protection within those particular networks, people should manage their risks. So again, if there's high exposure and risk, then reduce those risks by either not having sex, for example, reduction of partners. You can certainly wear a condom, it's not fully protective. But those are the sort of things, and educate yourself about this particular infection so that you can actually reduce your risks.
Okay, and in closing, then talk to us very quickly about swine flu. We've been hearing that lots of people, look, it is flu season anyway, and lots of people are saying that I've been diagnosed with swine flu. So what is that? And, is it really just your regular flu that, presents every year during this time? And do we treat it as per normal unless you become severely ill?
Sure. So again, coming back to the point about our nomenclature and naming of these infections, I would like to encourage everybody to move away from the term swine flu. There is no swine flu in South Africa or worldwide. There may be in some areas where swine are infected, but let's move away from this. So the flu that was pandemic in South Africa, I think 2009, 11 thereabouts. That particular virus was a new virus. We were not exposed to it. It's now become endemic. In other words, we see the seasonal flu happening throughout.
Regularly, sure.
Yes. So we are experiencing an outbreak of flu currently, as we usually do during this particular period. In the main, it is not serious overall. But again, there are specific risk groups that really need attention, such as pregnant women, older individuals who may have or comorbidities such as, again, diabetes or cardiac disease or renal disease, where, again, I really would encourage, if vaccine is still available, because you can vaccinate yourself anytime. There's obviously a period when it's optimal to vaccine, but you can continue to vaccinate. So if you are in specific age groups at high risk, I would really encourage people to still get the flu vaccine. So yes, the season continues. We thought it may be a more severe season, but it appears to be relatively moderate. But yes, it does still have poorer outcomes for people. They end up in hospital, they do die. So again, within a household, again, if you're feeling unwell, you really have all these severe symptoms, keep away from others. Don't go to work. Wear a mask. Clean your utensils and home, for example. So those are the sort of key things that I would really recommend during this flu season.
Okay, Professor Adrian Puren, Executive Director of the National Institute for Communicable Diseases. Always a pleasure talking to you, but I prefer not talking with you because that means that it's a relatively healthy environment and country. But thank you indeed for your insights. Go well. Have a great day.
Thank you very much.
It is exactly 8:31 a.m. News and views on Salam Media, and standing by, I hope, to talk with us next is was supposed to have been our first interview, and that, of course, is Professor Beki Mngomezulu, political analyst, and we're going to be looking at the role of MK within the GNU, or rather not within the GNU, but rather as an opposition to the GNU, and how the cabinet's going to look like with MK members being part of the cabinet of South Africa. Please stay with us.